This is my persuasive speech, speech number 3, and this is my audience.
Hi.
So, many people ask me why I decided to go vegan, and the answer is always the same. Because I tried it. And I tried it for 2 weeks after reading up on it and researching it, and deciding that I thought it would be a good fit for me, seeing as I wanted to be fit and I wanted to be very healthy. And that's my purpose today, is I would like to persuade you to give it a try, just to see how it makes you feel. Because for me, after 2 weeks of eating vegan, I never wanted to eat another way again. I felt so good. And that's because it's so great for your health, but it's also very good for your emotional state because of what you are doing for the world and for animals. But first of all, being vegan is better for your health, and there has been tons of research and studies conducted on this. The most famous study is the China study, conducted by Dr. T. Colin Campbell of Cornell University. And this was a 20-year research project where he examined the things that people ate in China. And he concluded that people who ate a very small amount or no animal products were at a much less risk for certain diseases such as cancer and diabetes and osteoporosis. And in this study, he also did a study on rodents. And in this study, he took 2 groups of rodents, mice and rats, and he fed one group a diet consisted of 20% casein, which is the main protein found in milk, and he fed the other group only 5% casein. And then he injected both groups with cancer cells. And it turns out that the group that ate more casein had enormous amounts of cancer, while the ones who did not had very minuscule amounts or no cancer at all. And Harvard Public Health has linked the consumption of milk and dairy products to ovarian cancer and prostate cancer. And there's other reasons to consider going vegan. Almost everybody that I know has an animal that they love, and they would feel very strongly if that animal were abused. And it's not a far stretch to think about how other animals are being treated around the world, and especially here in America. Because here in America, in the meat, egg, and dairy industry, 10 billion animals are killed yearly. That's 40 million animals in less than 2 days. 40 million animals are killed for no reason other than we want to eat them. And being vegan, and being vegetarian even, saves about 75 lives a year. And even if you are going to eat meat, it's important to think about not supporting factory farming. Because here in America, we've decided that we want things cheap and we want things fast, and that's resulted in factory farming, and that's resulted in us treating animals as if they are products and not as living beings, which they are. And this is evidenced by so many inhumane practices that go on in these industries. There have been videos exposing all kinds of inhumane things, such as live animals going through the slaughter process. There have been lots of videos of abuse by slaughterhouse workers, where they kick, where they punch, where they slam animals for no reason, just because. And there's also practices that are more everyday, common things that happen in these industries, such as cutting the beaks off of chickens so that they don't peck each other. And in the egg industry, they take the male chicks, because they can't produce eggs, they take the baby male chicks only a day or 2 old, and they throw them in trash bags or they throw them in a meat grinder because they don't need them, and because they don't treat them as living, breathing things. They're a product, and they are a product that they can't use. Also, animals that don't get killed right away spend their whole lives in cramped cages. They spend their whole lives not being able to turn around, not being able to be with their children and with their families, and they spend their whole lives in a state of misery. They really do, and these are animals, they're not unaware of their situation. These animals know that they are not where they're supposed to be. They know that they are not in a field somewhere happy. They're living very miserable lives. They're imprisoned. They're slaves. Another thing is the dairy industry. People think that that's, not so bad. And in a lot of ways, it's not. But in others, these cows that produce this milk, they're forced to be pregnant. They are forcibly impregnated constantly, and their calves are taken away within a day or two of them being born. And those calves are either sold to produce more milk, to produce beef, or for veal. And if these things were happening to humans, this would never stand. We would never be okay with these things happening to other people. So ask yourself, why is it okay for this to happen to animals? I wouldn't let this happen to my dog. I wouldn't let somebody forcibly impregnate a dog and keep it in a cage where it can't move around for its whole life. And we have laws against that. We have laws against animal cruelty for dogs and cats. But there are no laws protecting chickens. Chickens, you can do anything you want to a chicken because nothing is going to protect them. And that's why it's important to consider not eating them. Because the more people that don't consume chickens and cows and pigs, the more people who don't do this, the less they will produce, and the less these things will be happening. And there's other reasons to go vegan, but there's a lot of arguments against it. There's a lot of people who don't believe that it's the best diet. And there's a lot of people who ask, where do you get your protein? And there's lots of sources of vegan protein. Lentils, beans, nuts, seeds, those are some of the most common. Actually, for my visual aid, I have sources of protein, vegan sources of protein, sorry about that. Vegan sources of protein. And the red denotes 1 to 6 grams, the purple denotes 7 to 11 grams, the blue denotes 12 to 16 grams, and so on. And examples of these are, there's broccoli and lima beans and tofu and soy yogurt and soybeans and black beans and peas. There's an abundance of foods where you get a substantial amount of protein. And it's recommended that our daily intake of protein is 10 to 15% of our caloric intake a day, which is easily obtainable on a vegan diet. And a good reason to pick plant protein over animal protein is because animal protein is much higher in saturated fat and in cholesterol. Soybeans contain no cholesterol and only about 1% of your daily recommended value of fat, while a 3-ounce serving of steak contains 25% of your daily intake of fat and 30% of your daily intake of cholesterol. Now keep in mind, that's a 3-ounce steak. Most steaks that you order at a restaurant are at least 6 ounces. So people are getting much more fat and cholesterol than they need from their animal sources and passing it off as being a good protein source, which it is. That's a great point that meat eaters make, is that meat contains a much more balanced blend of amino acids, and it does. But the risk of heart disease that's strongly linked to higher fat and higher cholesterol diets aren't worth it. They're not worth the protein that meat can get you when you can get just as much protein from other sources, from vegan sources. The National Strength and Conditioning Association, they state that as long as you eat a variety of foods, including legumes and beans and whole grains, it's easy to achieve the proper amino acid or protein ratio that you need per day. And people like to bring up about a vegan diet the subject of vitamin deficiency. And while it is wise for vegans to supplement certain things like vitamin B12, because that's a vitamin that's harder to get on a vegan diet, it's not impossible. There are ways to get everything you need from a vegan diet. And studies have shown that vegans are no lower in iron and other nutrients than non-vegans. So in conclusion, veganism is much better for your health. From my experience, it affects the way you feel almost immediately. You will no longer be supporting a very, very cruel food industry and farming industry. And as long as you are aware of what you eat, a vegan diet won't be lacking in anything. And you can enjoy the food you eat and know that it's not going to make you sick down the road. It's not going to lead to cancer or osteoporosis or diabetes. And protein is not something that's animal exclusive. We do not need to eat animals in order to get our daily amount of protein that we need. So I hope that you consider making the switch just for a week or two and see how you feel, and see how much better you are going to feel about yourself, and how much better your body is going to feel, and how much more efficiently things are going to run. And so I really do hope that you give it a try. Thanks.